Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first in our Fellowship Friday series, Introduction to Global Fellowships. My name is Shay Masterson with the Office of National Scholarships Advisement here at ASU, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. So first, we're going to do some brief introductions. I want to see who's in the room with us today. Then we'll go over an overview of the Office of National Scholarships Advisement, or ONSA, for those of you who may not be familiar with what we do. And then we're going to dive into a variety of global fellowships that we advise on. First, we'll start with undergraduate awards and a couple of different categories within undergraduate awards, general ones, research-focused ones, and then ones that are more international affairs focused. Then we'll talk about some critical language awards, postgraduate awards, so awards for after you complete your bachelor's degree, and finally, graduate fellowships. So these are ones that are going to help you with graduate studies. So lots of different categories of global fellowships that we'll be talking about today. None of them will we go into depth on them. This is just an introduction. And then we'll wrap up with just some next steps, some resources and things that you can do moving forward from today if you're interested in any of these awards that we discuss. So first up, as I said, some quick introductions. So since we're on Zoom, how I'm going to ask you to do that is in just a moment, I just want everybody to type into the chat, what is your academic year or level? If you're an undergraduate student, say like first, second, third, fourth year. If you're a graduate student, then say, master's or PhD, whatever the case may be. And then also, if your academic major or area of study. And last but not least, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be? So the level of student you are, what you're studying, and if you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be? Just giving me a sense of who's in the room as well as the rest of you. And I see some folks already typing into the chat, so I'll give everybody else a moment. Okay, so Germany, great. Some opportunities to go to Germany that we'll talk about. Dubai, Spain, we've got some first year undergrads, third year, Spain or Italy, South Korea, London. Okay, wonderful. Just give one more moment, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay. Somewhere in Europe, wonderful. And France, okay. So a lot of places in Europe of interest. I think I saw one Dubai, one South Korea, and I think two South Korea, and everything else I think was Europe. So in good company if you're saying anywhere in Europe. And it looks like we've got a good range of academic levels in the room too. So hopefully there will be one or more things for everybody with us today that may be of interest. So as I go through sharing all of this information, please feel free to type into the chat any questions you're having. If I know I'm going to cover that in a moment, I'll wait and hold off on answering that question, or I'll just answer it right in the moment if it's not something that's already part of the presentation. So I'll keep an eye on that as best I can. So please, please share any questions that you have in the chat, and then we'll also have time at the end for additional questions. So again, for those of you who may not be familiar with our office already, as the Office of National Scholarships Advisement, you may be wondering, what are national scholarships? So in a nutshell, the awards we advise on are national or international in their focus in a variety of ways. First off, the funding for these awards comes from national or international organizations, foundations, or agencies with either the US federal government or other federal governments. So the funding is national or international. And with that, the applicant pool. So who's eligible to apply for the awards that our office supports? Those are students and graduates from all over the country, and in some cases, all over the world. Most of them are experiential. They may come with some general funding, but usually they're going to come with some kind of either funding for an experience, or even if they come with general funding, there's also going to be an experience that you gain from that. So in the case of today, a lot of those experiences are going to be revolving around going abroad, but they also might be research experiences or language acquisition experiences. Sometimes there might be an internship component of the awards that we advise on. So you're gaining some kind of experience to help propel you forward with your future goals and path. So in addition, all of the awards we advise on, because they're funded from national and international organizations and agencies, they're very mission driven. And they're looking for applicants who can support whatever mission they have. So, for instance, many of the awards we advise on are funded by the US Department of State. The US Department of State generally has a mission in relating around diplomacy abroad, US interests abroad, improving US relations abroad, right? So, in some form or fashion, pretty much all of the awards that they fund have a focus on students or recent graduates promoting diplomacy and relations in some form or fashion, either domestically or abroad. Right. So that just gives you an idea. That's just one example. There's other funders of national scholarships and other missions that they're trying to fulfill. But in general, that's what I mean by mission driven. And everything we advise on is highly competitive and very prestigious. Some are more well known than others, depending on the award and depending on what your academic and professional field is. But in general, the things we advise on are going to be fairly well known and prestigious and would benefit you moving forward if you're able to say, you know, I'm a Gilman Scholar, I'm a Rhodes Scholar. Obviously, that's one of the most prestigious ones and most competitive ones that we advise on. So, given that those are the awards that we focus on, we do a variety of things in our office to support ASU students and alumni in pursuit of these awards. We do one-on-one and small group advising. That can be general advising, helping you identify which awards would align with your interests, to award specific advising, right? You're working on an application and you need general guidance and advising on that process. So a variety of ways that we advise. We provide information and guidance to students who may make great candidates and may be interested in the various awards we advise on. So one way that we do that is through informational sessions and workshops like you're joining today. We also do that through our weekly newsletter, through going to various events and classes throughout the ASU community. So in general, just providing this information and guidance to as many individuals in the ASU community as we can. Once you're working on a specific national scholarship or fellowship application, we give writing support. So we'll do that in workshop form where multiple students can attend. And some of those are specific to awards, and some of those are just if you're working on any award application, you can attend that. And then we also give group, peer, and individual feedback on what you've written for any application that you're working on. If you're applying for an award that requires an interview at some point and you're selected for an interview for that award, they don't all require this, but some do. And if that's the case, then we'll also help you prepare for the award. And finally, if you're applying for anything that requires campus or university nomination or endorsement, we manage that process. We do not decide who gets nominated or endorsed in our office for any particular award. We just manage the process. And generally speaking, it means that you, as the interested applicant, need to submit all of your application materials by the campus deadline for that award. Then it is reviewed amongst your ASU peers by a campus committee compiled of staff and faculty from across the university. You may participate in an interview with that campus committee. You may not, depending on the award. And then that committee decides who to move forward in that process. So if you're ever looking at one of the awards we advise on, or if you find one on your own that is saying that you need to be nominated or endorsed by your university, then we're the ones that are going to manage that process. So in a nutshell, those are the type of awards we advise on and how we provide that advising. We have a whole team of individuals in our office who are here to support you, depending on where you're at in your academic journey and what awards you're most interested in. So for today, I'm going to jump into global awards that we advise on, which is many of them, although not all of them. And again, please feel free to type any questions you're having as I go through this in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on that. So we're going to first focus on undergraduate awards, as I mentioned in the agenda. And first, general undergraduate awards to study abroad. Okay, so again, global fellowships, most of these are going to have a component of you going abroad, most of them. So some general undergraduate opportunities we advise on so that you can study abroad, depending on, again, where you're at in your academic journey, where you want to go and what you want to do while you're abroad. Here's some of the top awards we advise on. The Gilman Scholarship is up to $5,000 for any undergraduate student who is a Pell Grant recipient and wants to do a credit-bearing study abroad program for any length of time from 1 week to 1 year. In a nutshell, that's who it's for and what it provides. Is up to $5,000 of funding towards whatever study abroad program you've identified you want to go on. And you can apply. Most of the awards we advise on are due. They have one application cycle a year, and you're applying to participate in that program either the upcoming summer or the following academic year. With Gilman and a couple others on this slide, there's actually 2 application cycles each year, both in the fall and the spring. So just know, depending on when you want to study abroad, will determine which cycle you want to apply in. Additionally, we have the Fulbright UK Summer Institute. A lot of students are familiar with the Fulbright program or that name. Usually they think of the post-grad opportunity, which we will talk about in a little bit, but there are a couple undergraduate opportunities through the Fulbright program as well. So this is one of them. This is specifically for first and second year undergraduate students who want to go to the UK over the summer and have never been to the UK and haven't had a lot of international experience previously. If you're selected, it's a fully funded, about month-long program that you go to the UK in. This one's actually opening up this in the next month, and then we'll be due in February. Killam is an exchange program also under the Fulbright umbrella, and it's exchange with Canada. So you select a participating Canadian university to apply for, and then if you're selected, you will go to that university for a full semester in the following academic year, either fall or spring. And since it's an exchange program, your tuition and fees are the same. You pay your ASU tuition and fees just as you would have if you were staying here for the semester. And typically your scholarships and financial aid are applicable towards your tuition and fees for the semester, although you always need to confirm that with financial aid and scholarship services. Despite the word scholarships being in the title of our department, we do not advise specifically around your ASU financial aid and scholarships. And then in addition, you receive a $6,000 stipend to cover your expenses to spend the semester in Canada. This one has an asterisk next to it. And as we go through the presentation, any award that you see with that, it does indicate that that award requires that nomination or endorsement from the university. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's why I've included that on here. For the Killam Fellowship this year, the campus deadline is going to be in December. Also one that's opening up soon. And we have an information session specifically for Killam coming up next week or the following. So if you're interested in that one, get started by going to that award-specific information session. And the Fulbright UK Summer Institute will have an information session in November around the time that one's opening. Some other awards that are a little bit lesser known in the ASU community, but are also available if you're wanting to study abroad as an undergraduate student, and we would support you in that application process. The Fund for Education Abroad, which is for study abroad programs that are at least 4 weeks long, and also credit bearing. You do have to have a demonstrated financial need, although they don't specifically quantify what that financial need is, like with the Gilman, where they specify that you need to be receiving a Pell Grant. And then Freeman Asia also requires a demonstrated financial need. And then it's to be applied towards any study abroad program in one of the participating Asian countries that are part of this program that is at least 8 weeks long. So depending on, again, where you're going, when you're going, for how long you're going, there's some different options that might be available for just general study abroad funding. And these both also have fall and spring application deadlines every year. We have just passed pretty much all of those that are fall and spring application deadlines. So if you're wanting to apply for those, you'd be looking at applying in the spring for the next cycle. And then finally, this is a relatively new fellowship, the Frederick Douglass Global Fellowship. This is through CIEE, which is one of the largest international study abroad program providers. And they have created this program for students from typically underrepresented backgrounds and who are interested in social and civil rights issues. And so it's an abroad experience where you will go to different places in the world and learn about and go to places relevant to social and civil rights. So for instance, this past summer, they went to Washington, D.C., Ireland, and South Africa. So I'm not sure what this coming summer will entail, but if you are an undergraduate who is interested in kind of social and civil rights issues, that's a fully funded opportunity to spend some time abroad during the summer, and it doesn't require the whole summer participation. It's not quite open yet and will be due in February. So again, these are some kind of more general ones, aren't necessarily for specific types of experiences, although with the exception of the Frederick Douglass one. So really quick, this is a unique scholarship in terms of ones that we advise on, but does have a travel or global component to it. This is the Voyager Scholarship, which is also relatively new. This coming year will be the 3rd year that it's offered. This is from the Obama Foundation in partnership with the CEO of Airbnb. It is for current rising juniors or sophomores who are interested in public service careers in the future. So working with the government, NGOs or nonprofit agencies, and also have a demonstrated financial need. So it provides both general undergraduate funding up to $50,000 for the 2 remaining years of undergraduate studies, as well as a $10,000 stipend for your summer voyage, as they term it, which is you taking on some kind of work or internship or research experience that's related to the field that you're interested in and will be somewhere other than where you reside. And so they provide that stipend so that you can have funding to help support you over the summer to pursue that opportunity. So that's that travel or possible global component to the Voyager Scholarship. In addition, after you graduate with your bachelor's degree, they will continue to award you a $2,000 stipend towards staying at Airbnbs annually for the following 10 years after you graduate. So that's what makes this one kind of most unique in terms of awards that we advise on, is that continued support that you'd receive. And And then there's also a leadership conference that they bring all of the scholars together for leadership development, professional development, networking, and mentorship opportunities. This will, as of this last year, it was due in March. It's not open yet, so we're anticipating probably a similar deadline. So if you're a current sophomore or going to be a sophomore in the future, and this one appeals to you, plan on applying for that when the time comes. So moving on to some research experiences that have a global component. So for those who are in the STEM fields, and a second or third year undergraduate, there's the Dodd-Rise program. This is summer research experiences that take place in Germany. So they have a variety of labs that are available. You pick up to 3 labs of interest to you. And then if you're selected, you will go spend the summer in Germany and they'll pay you a stipend while you're there. Again, only open to second and third year students within kind of the STEM fields. That one is actually opening this month and will be due at the end of November. We also have a Dodd-Rise specific information session coming up later this month. Another one to get research experience abroad is the METAX Global Link program. This is another Fulbright award. So under that overall Fulbright umbrella for undergraduate students, though, this is also a summer research experience, and it takes place at labs throughout Canada. Also open to second and third year undergraduate students in STEM fields as well as humanities. So not as a lot of times research experiences are more focused in the STEM field. So that's nice because this one is open to additional students in areas of study. This one typically has been due in September. So it opens around the time our school year begins and then closes within like that first month or 6 weeks of the school year. So just keep an eye on it for next year. So our office is located in Barrett, the Honors College, but we serve all of ASU, undergraduates, graduate students, alumni, whether they're Barrett students or not. But there is one award that we advise on that's specifically for Barrett students and has funding that's not coming from a national or international source. So it's the outlier in terms of what I mentioned before when I talked about what are national scholarships and fellowships. But this is an opportunity for third year students within the Barrett program to apply for grant funding to travel abroad over the summer to receive or to conduct work on their thesis, whether that be research or project oriented. So that's one is also coming up soon, and we'll have an information session at the end of this month for it if you are a Barrett student who's going to be working on your thesis this year. All right. Last but not least in the undergraduate category is our International Affairs Awards. These aren't necessarily going to take you abroad, but they're for anybody who's interested in an international affairs related career in the future, whether you're majoring in an international affairs field right now, but that's what you want to do in the future. 2 of them happen in the US and 1 will take you abroad. So first is the Rangel Summer Enrichment Program. This is for undergraduates in their 2nd through 4th year of undergrad who want to pursue possible graduate studies and a career within international affairs. So you go to Howard University for the summer in DC, and you take courses and do field trips and meet with professionals within the international affairs realm. To gain more exposure and understanding of what the opportunities are within that field. Also fully funded. Then there's the Undergraduate Diversity Fellowship with the Bureau of Asian Research. If you're interested in international policy, especially within the Asian region, then this is an undergraduate research experience that also happens in DC over the summer. So having that interest in international issues, especially relating between US and Asian interests, you can help at the Bureau of Asian Research for this summer and be paid a stipend to do so. And then last but not least, if you have an interest with the State Department's Foreign Service in the future, but aren't really sure if that's something you'd want to do, but you'd like to get the experience and more exposure to it. If you're a second or third year student, you can apply for the U.S. Foreign Service Internship Program. This is a 2-year summer internship program with the Foreign Service, where the first summer you would be domestic in Washington, D.C. for your internship placement. And then the second summer you would go abroad to an embassy abroad for the summer. And both summers you would be paid a stipend while you're interning. So again, if you're interested in maybe having a government focused international affairs career, that's a great way to get some experience. This one is typically due in August. And it's also because it's an internship program with the State Department and not necessarily a formal scholarship or fellowship. The application window is usually very, very narrow. It's usually only open for like a week or two at the end of August. So that's something that you really got to stay in the know on if you're interested in applying in the future. Okay. One more spotlight on a domestic but international affairs focused program is the Public Policy and International Affairs Junior Summer Institute, or PPIA JSI. So very large name and a very large acronym. So this is for juniors who are interested in pursuing graduate studies and a career in public policy and or international affairs. And if that's the case, then you can apply to the Junior Summer Institute, which is actually located at 6, not 7, different universities throughout the US. And you take grad school preparation classes, as well as participate in a variety of extracurricular activities, all revolved around giving you experience and preparation to pursue graduate school and ultimately a career in policy or international affairs. In addition, it comes with a guaranteed minimum $5,000 scholarship towards grad school if you're admitted to one of the programs that are part of their consortium, which is over 50 grad schools in the country that offer policy or international affairs focused degrees. But many of them provide very generous funding to alumni of the Junior Summer Institute, including up to full funding for your graduate program. And this one is open right now and due November 1st. So if you're currently a junior, meaning you're completing your bachelor's degree sometime between December of 2024 and August of 2025, and have your sights set on possible grad programs and careers in policy and international affairs, this is something you should definitely plan to apply for right now. So moving on to our critical language awards. These are ones that will support you in oftentimes going abroad, although not always, but will support you in gaining language acquisition in a foreign language. Critical languages are typically ones that are not commonly taught or known in the US, which is usually Western European languages and Spanish. So they're typically focusing on other languages besides those. The reason why I separated these out from everything else is because these awards are actually open to undergraduate students and graduate students. So kind of regardless of where you're at in your academic journey, as long as you're still a student, you could potentially apply for any and all of these. So first up is the Critical Languages Scholarship. This is not to be confused with the Critical Languages Institute, which is here at ASU and offers a variety of language opportunities. Some of the languages overlap between the Critical Languages Institute and the Critical Languages Scholarship, but they are two different programs. So the Critical Languages Scholarship specifically is an opportunity to go abroad over the summer and learn one of 14 languages. So they've identified the 14 languages, and you pick which language you want to learn. Either start learning or continue learning. About half of the languages require no previous study, and about half of them require 1 or 2 years of previous study. So regardless of where you're at in your language acquisition, you may be eligible for one or more of the languages offered through this program. It is open right now and due in November, so something that you would want to get started on right now if you want to apply this year. If you're selected, your experience for the summer is fully funded. Then there's the Boren Awards. This is if you have a language, a critical language that you want to learn or continue learning, and there's a study abroad program that will help you do that. You can apply for the Boren Award to fund that experience. So it's a little bit more broad in terms of when you go, where you go, what language you're going for. You have a lot more flexibility there, as well as if you the level of study you've already done in the language or not. That's something that you would pay attention to the specific study abroad program that you're applying for. Um, these do have to be at least 12-week long programs. Unless you are a STEM student, then you can be applying for an 8-week long program. And they do have a preference, though, unless you're a STEM student, for programs that are a little bit longer, ideally 6 months to a year. And then as long as you've identified that program, you're going to a country where that language is spoken, and you're going to be learning that language and deepening your language skills, then you could potentially apply for the Boren Scholarship to fund that. This one has an intent to apply deadline this year. So that's where you inform our office that you're going to apply, open an application, and have an advising appointment specifically for this award by December. This one does come with a service commitment. So if you receive a Boren Award, in the future, when you're done with your academic pursuits, you are committing to a minimum 1 year of working with the federal government in some capacity that has, as they say, national security interests, but they very broadly define what has national security interests within the federal government. So there's a lot of opportunity and flexibility within fulfilling that commitment. But if working with the federal government is something that you are interested in the future, or maybe interested in the future, then the Boren Award is one way to get there. If you're like, absolutely not, I would not want to work for the federal government under no circumstances, not even for just a year, then the Boren Scholarship is probably not for you. And that's okay. And then last but not least is the Foreign Language and Area Studies grant, or FLAS. So this one is federally funded, but it's given to institutions to then award to students at that institution. And so this is managed for ASUs through the Malikian Center for, I'm going to mess up the exact name, but Eastern Europe and Eurasian languages, I think is maybe the correct title of it. But the Malikian Center they do the ASU Critical Languages Institute. They also offer a variety of opportunities for learning more about that region as well as the languages of that region. So if you're learning one of those languages or focusing in that area for your studies, that region for your studies, then you could potentially apply for the FLAS grant to continue your language studies in that area, whether you're an undergraduate student or a graduate student here at ASU. Okay, so moving right along. I haven't seen any questions, but again, feel free to type them into the chat at any point if you have them. So now we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about postgraduate awards. So I just got a question about when to apply for the Gilman Scholarship if you're going to study abroad in spring of 2024. So as of right now, you could apply in the next deadline, March of in the spring of 2024, that's already passed. Sorry, I'm getting a little lost on my years. So if you're planning to study abroad in the spring of 2024, which is next semester as of right now, then there's really not any awards that our office advises on that would help fund that at this point if you haven't already applied, whether that be the Gilman Scholarship or something else. Typically, you would have had to apply at least a semester, if not a full year ahead of time, to study abroad for that semester. However, there are ASU-specific study abroad scholarships through the Global Education Office, and there also may be college-specific study abroad scholarships. So whether you're in Barrett, the Honors College, or whatever your academic college is, there may be study abroad scholarships through them as well. We do not advise on those, so I don't know all of the ins and outs, but I would check with the Global Education Office and or your academic or honors college to see if they have scholarships available, and if so, if those are still open. Although I would act fast if you're planning to study abroad next spring. So for postgraduate awards, we're going to be talking about opportunities to go abroad for usually about a year to gain experience after you've earned your bachelor's degree. Some of these are also open to you as a graduate student or after you've completed a graduate degree, but at minimum, it's usually after you've completed a bachelor's degree. So that's why we call them postgraduate awards. So first we're going to talk about some language and professional experience focused ones. So these ones are opportunities for you to gain further language skills, potentially in that language that's spoken in that place, and or professional experience. So regardless of what field you're interested in going to, they offer opportunities for you to gain that experience. So first is the Blakemore Freeman. This is year-long language acquisition for after you graduate in an Asian country. This one, you do have to already have a certain level of skill in that language before applying for this award. So if you're already studying an Asian language now, or have those language skills, or maybe you develop them through something like the Critical Languages Scholarship or the Boren Award or FLAS may apply it. We have to check the exact languages that are covered in both FLAS and Blakemore Freeman, but definitely some languages in Critical Languages Scholarship and Boren would be applicable. Then you could apply for the Blakemore Freeman to spend a whole year furthering your language study in a country in Asia where that language is spoken. Then there's the Congress Buddhistan Youth Exchange Program, which is actually both language and professional experience oriented. This is for going to Germany. It's actually not necessarily for after you've gained your bachelor's degree. You could also do this after you've earned your high school diploma, but typically, since students we work with are already college students, they usually apply for it for the year after they've completed their bachelor's degree or sometime after that. And this is an opportunity to spend a full year in Germany. The first 2 months you do intensive language studies, so you don't already have to have German language skills, although if you do, that's fine too. Then you spend a semester doing academic study at a university in an area that's of interest to you. And then you do a semester of a professional internship placement in an area of interest to you. So this is language, academic, and professional experience all within a year's time in Germany. And again, these experiences are funded for you to go and do this. Then there's the Loose Scholars Program. So if you are interested in going to an Asian country, but more for professional experience than just focusing on language acquisition, then the Loose Scholars may be of interest to you. And so you apply for a specific participating country, and then they would match you with a local organization or company to gain professional experience for a year in that country. And then finally, the Banyan Fellowship, which is specifically to go to India for a year. And it's in a volunteer role, although they do pay you a stipend while you're there. But they deem it a volunteer role as opposed to a professional placement. But also in a field of interest to you with a local organization in India. So depending on where you want to go and why you want to go there, a variety of options to gain some experience in different parts of the world after you graduate. So this is, we've mentioned Fulbright a couple of times now, but the Fulbright U.S. student program is often what people think of when they hear the word Fulbright. And so this is an opportunity for after you've gained your bachelor's degree and pretty much anytime after that until you have a PhD. So you can apply for a Fulbright Award in your senior year of undergrad, after you've completed your bachelor's degree, while you're in a master's program, or while you're in a PhD program, or after you've completed a master's degree, but before you've actually completed a PhD. At any time in that range, you can potentially apply for the Fulbright U.S. Student Program to spend an academic year, and that can range typically from like the 8-month to 12-month mark, although most of them are for 10 months. So you spend an academic year in another country. There's over 150 different countries to choose from that are part of the Fulbright U.S. Student Program. And you can either be focusing on academic study in that country, whether that's auditing courses, doing a certificate program, doing part or a full 1-year graduate program. You can be doing research, whether that's part of an academic study or independent, or you can be teaching English. So you can further your skills, experience, knowledge in a variety of ways through the Fulbright U.S. Student Program. You do have to decide what country you want to go to and what type of award you're going to apply for, though. You can't just apply open and be like, I just want Fulbright funding to go anywhere to do anything. You have to make those decisions before you actually apply. This one does not require, but highly, highly encourages you to receive your campus endorsement, whether you're still a student or not. If you are still a student, the National Committee will probably not consider your application very much if you don't have campus endorsement. If you're a graduate of, especially if it's been a while since you've graduated from your university, either at the undergrad or master's level, you can apply at large, although you still can and should apply for campus endorsement for the Fulbright Student Program. And that is typically in September. We start off the Fulbright application cycle at the end of March, which is around the time that the application opens for the next cycle, with our Fulbright Day experience, where we bring ASU alumni who have participated in the Fulbright program in a variety of places and in a variety of ways to share about their experience in the program, as well as their experience actually applying for the award. So if that's something appealing to you, be on the lookout for Fulbright Day in March. If you're interested in teaching abroad after you've earned your bachelor's degree, you can do that through Fulbright ETA. For English teaching, they offer, there's about 80 or so different countries you can apply to, not the full spectrum of Fulbright countries, because you wouldn't apply to be an English teaching assistant in a country where they predominantly speak English already. So that eliminates some countries of choice if you're going to apply for an ETA specifically through the Fulbright program, but you can teach for a year through Fulbright. And then there's some country specific awards to teach in individual countries that you can apply for as well. So if you want to teach for a year in Japan, China, Spain, or France, each one of those countries has their own English teaching assistant programs that are going to vary by each program, exactly who they're looking for, what the experience will exactly be, and when the applications are due. But those are all options. And then there's also Princeton in fill in the blank programs, which is where you can gain teaching or other professional experience in a variety of countries throughout the world. So there's Princeton in Asia, Princeton in Latin America, Princeton in Africa. So again, qualifications, applications, exact what the experience is going to be like is going to vary by each one there as well. Okay, last but not least, graduate fellowships. So these are opportunities to receive funding for graduate studies. Some of them are graduate studies abroad, and some of them are graduate studies in the US, but have an international component, okay? So if you're currently a graduate student at ASU it's not necessarily, with one exception, not necessarily fellowships that you can apply for to help fund your ASU experience. It's more so if you were going to pursue a graduate degree, an additional graduate degree, or a graduate degree elsewhere, with one exception. So first up, some kind of across the globe graduate study fellowship programs that we advise on. So first, there's the McCall-McBain Scholarship at McGill University. So McCall-McBain at McGill. It's a mouthful. But if you're wanting to pursue graduate studies at McGill University in Montreal, Canada, then you can apply for the McCall-McBain Scholarship to fund those graduate studies. So if there's an eligible graduate program at that university that you are interested in applying to, then you should apply for the McCall-McBain Scholarship because it will fully fund your experience there. Then there's the Schwarzman Scholarship, which is, yes, I will share out the recording as well as the slides after the meeting. The Schwarzman Scholarship and the Yenching Academy are both year-long master's degree programs at 2 different universities in Beijing, China. Each one of them is going to have a slightly different focus, but if you're ultimately interested in kind of international affairs issues or global studies, either one of those programs would be a great fit. And then the Fulbright U.S. Student Program, again, one of the options through the Fulbright U.S. Student Program is to pursue graduate studies at a university abroad. It does only provide 1 year of funding, so you do need to keep that in mind and either focus on 1-year graduate degree programs in your country of choice, or know that you would have to pursue other funding or self-fund for the additional years of that graduate program. If you're interested in doing graduate studies in the UK or Ireland specifically, there are a lot of fellowship opportunities that you can apply for, and each one is going to be slightly different. Several of them do require campus nomination or endorsement, and the ones that do, that deadline is very, very early. It's typically in August. So just keep that in mind if and when the time comes. So if you want to go to Oxford University specifically, regardless of what you want to study, but you want to go to Oxford University for graduate studies, then the Rhodes Scholarship is going to be what you want to apply for. It's interdisciplinary, and it's probably the oldest and possibly the most well-known national scholarship and fellowship, which also means it's one of, if not the most competitive. But there's the Rhodes Scholarship to go to Oxford University. If you want to go to a Irish university specifically, regardless of which university in Ireland and what you want to study, there's the Mitchell Scholarship. If you want to go to Cambridge University, again, regardless of what you want to study there, but you want to go to Cambridge University specifically, there's the Gates Cambridge Scholarship. This one does not require nomination or endorsement from the university. And if you're interested in medicine-focused, health-focused graduate studies, there's the NIH, National Institute of Health, Oxford Cambridge Scholarship. So you can be going to either Oxford or Cambridge, or a combination of Oxford and Cambridge through the NIH program. And there's several different options within that, but if you're more health and or medicine focused with what you're wanting to pursue with graduate studies, then that might be an option. And if you're in the STEM fields and want to apply, oh my gosh, I just completely blanked. Churchill is for one specific university. I apologize. I'm blanking out on it. But it's one of the universities in the UK, and it's for 1-year STEM graduate degrees. Also requires that university nomination or endorsement. So all of these, if it requires nomination or endorsement, you're looking at typically needing to apply around August for the campus deadline. If it does not, you would still be looking at early to mid-fall as the usual application deadline. Thank you, Cambridge. So Churchill is if you want to do a STEM degree at Cambridge. Oh, I knew it was one of those, but I didn't want to misspeak what it was. I appreciate it. It's been a long week. Um, and then for the UK, this is not all of them. There's even more depending on what you want to study and where you want to go in the UK. But these are the most popular ones that we advise on. There's also the Marshall Scholarship. So this is for any university in the UK or Northern Ireland, and it provides up to 3 years. You can actually also go to multiple universities within that 3 years in the UK through the Marshall Scholarship. Again, you have to receive university nomination. The deadline is in August, so really have to be working over the summer of the year that you want to apply. And we launched the application cycle for all of the UK Graduate Awards in March with our British Tea event. So if you are an on-ground campus student in the greater Phoenix area, that does happen at the Tempe campus, but we have, kind of a lunchtime, late lunch tea that we offer. And we bring ASU folks who have participated in a variety of these UK fellowships. And they share really valuable information about what their experience was like studying in the UK, because it is a very different system than the US. So learning more about what it's like to actually study in the UK, as well as the application process. They share their insight, their candid insights and experience from that vantage point. We also have a virtual, like just more informational session that we offer in March around the UK awards as well. Now, if you want to study in the US, but with, a cohort of students from around the world, so that's the global or international component of these awards. There's the Quad Fellowship. This is the one where if you're a current graduate student at ASU and looking for a fellowship to cover your graduate studies, this is the one that, not the only one there is, but the one that we're going to talk about today. The Quad Fellowship is to pursue graduate studies in the STEM fields specifically at any US-based university, including ASU, although it doesn't have to be ASU. And their cohort is made up of students from the US, India, Japan, and Australia. So that's the Quad. So that's the global or international component, but you do have to be focused in the STEM fields and wanting to go to graduate studies in the US specifically for that fellowship. If you want to go to Stanford University for any graduate degree at Stanford, then the Knight Hennessy Scholarship is a fully funded fellowship, and they take applicants from across the world as well. So you would be participating with folks doing different graduate degrees and from around the world if you were a Knight Hennessy Scholar. And then there's the McDonald International Scholars Program at Washington University in St. Louis. So similarly, interdisciplinary to pursue graduate studies at Washington University, and similarly that they take applicants from across the world. All right, last but not least, this is also US-based graduate fellowships. And it's specifically if you want to go into the foreign service in the future. So you can receive funding for your graduate studies that will help you go into the foreign service. You will then also participate in 2 summer internships while you're a fellow and in your graduate program. And then you will begin working in the foreign service after you complete your graduate studies and the fellowship. And it is a commitment of a minimum of 5 years in the foreign service. So whether you want to go into the foreign service with the US Department of State, with USAID, or with USDA, Department of Agriculture, there are a variety of graduate fellowships that can help you do that. There's the Pickering and Rangel for general foreign service within the Department of State. There's the Clark Fellowship, which is to become a security agent with the Department of State Foreign Service. And the Foreign Affairs IT Fellowship is to become an information management specialist, so in the IT sector of the Foreign Service. If you want to go into the Foreign Service with USAID, there's the Payne Fellowship. And if you want to go into the Foreign Service of the Department of Agriculture, so Foreign Agricultural Services, there's the Foreign Agricultural Services, International Affairs. I'm blanking on the rest of the acronym. But so again, if you have your sights set on the Foreign Service and want to pursue a 2-year master's degree that will help you get there, and have a demonstrated financial need, it is defined differently for graduate studies than undergraduate studies. So that does not mean you have to have a demonstrated financial need for undergraduate purposes. There still may be possibilities to be eligible for this one as well. But a variety of them are available, and most of them have deadlines between September and October each year. Although the FAIT FATE Foreign Affairs IT one is usually later in the year, around like February. So some things to think about. I'm actually going to skip ahead. So from here on out, some next steps for you. I would first focus on what your objective or goals are. Because depending on what you want to do and what you want to accomplish and what you want to learn more about is going to determine which of these awards or any other awards we advise on are going to be most suited for you. So really do some reflection and determine what your immediate and long-term goals are. You do not have to have the rest of your life figured out, but do some reflection and thinking about that. With that in mind, review the database that is on our website of awards. I am also going to send you a list of the awards that we talked about today. Those are all on our database, but it'll give you one document that's just kind of a snapshot of those awards. And then spend some time just making note, make a list of the fellowships that you think would help you succeed in whatever your goals or objectives are. Make sure when you're looking through that list to note what the eligibility requirements are. Some of them require financial need. Some of them require citizenship status. Some of them require, they have age restrictions. Some of them have restrictions for post-grad stuff or graduate fellowships. Some have restrictions on how long you have been out of undergrad or how much of your graduate studies you've been pursuing. So make sure to note all of the eligibility requirements within that particular program and whatever the deadlines, especially if there's a campus deadline that's going to be earlier than whatever that national deadline is. Another great thing to consider doing if you're interested in any of these awards is read some of the scholar profiles or alumni profiles that most of these awards will have posted on their website. You can also read the ASU news articles that are posted on our website about ASU students and alumni who have received these awards to gain a little bit more insight about who the folks that are typically being selected for these awards, what kinds of things they're doing. Not necessarily who they are, but what kinds of things are they doing in their studies and in their professions. So those are just some good next steps to keep in mind. From our website, onsa.asu.edu, you can view the scholarship database, which is where this arrow pointing up is going to take you if you go to the page, that first tab on the left-hand side at the top. Whenever you're ready to discuss a variety or any specific award that you want to apply for, you can make an appointment with our office under the advising, highlighted advising line on the, still towards the top, but not right at the top on the right-hand side. So you can make an appointment with an advisor. You can schedule a general appointment. If you're a current undergraduate student, you would schedule a general undergraduate advising appointment. If you are a current graduate student, you would schedule a general graduate advising appointment to just talk through a little bit more in depth. What are your goals and what awards may interest you? if you're applying for, if you're like, oh, I heard about Critical Languages Scholarship, I reviewed the eligibility, I'm eligible, and I want to apply right now because that's open and that's going to be due next month, you can schedule a Critical Languages Scholarship intake appointment to get started working on that specific application. If there's not necessarily an advising appointment type for every award we advise on, though. Some of the lesser known one, not known, lesser applied to ones, like we don't have as many students working with our office every year applying for those awards. We won't necessarily have that listed in the advising portal. So if there's one specific award that you're working on the application for and you don't see an appointment type for it, feel free to reach out to me or our office to find out who and how to schedule an appointment for that. But many of them are listed as a specific appointment type once you're working on that application. And then also, if you have not already, I would suggest you sign up for our weekly bulletin, which is that second maroon button on our homepage. This is sent out once a week where we highlight what the upcoming deadlines are, what awards have opened for new applications, and we highlight our information sessions and events like today. And sometimes we also highlight special information sessions or events that are happening that are for specific awards. Like a couple weeks ago, we had a representative from Boren who wanted to come. So we did a special event that wasn't part of our regular information sessions and workshops that we schedule, but we were able to highlight that special event through the newsletter and a variety of ways. But anyways, that weekly newsletter is a great way to stay up to date on all things national scholarships. And that brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Please make sure to visit our website, again, onsa.asu.edu. Feel free to look at the scholarship database, sign up for our weekly newsletter, and or make an appointment at any time. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Shay, can I ask a question?